Neat Nation, welcome back to the Drew P. Whiskey Show, where today I'm talking a little bit about Willett. I'm going to talk about Willett twice this week. First off, I'm going to talk about the Willett Distillery and Bar, which is a killer experience that I've experienced multiple times now, and an experience that I want to experience again in future experiences. So, spoiler alert, I'm recommending you experience this experience. While I talk about that, I'm going to be sipping the Willett 4-Year Family Estate Rye, which I will then review in a subsequent video, which will drop this Wednesday. This is dropping Monday morning, 2 days from now on Monday. Going to review that sucker. In the meantime, I'm going to sip that sucker. In the meantime, I want you guys to get down in the show notes below and like and comment and subscribe. So just do that, okay? You might notice my voice sounds different this episode. It's because I have a cold. Not COVID, but a cold. Thankfully, I can still taste stuff, and I actually kind of like what it's doing to my voice. It feels masculine. In a world where whiskey is king. We're surviving. And, I mean, whiskey, I mentioned this on the live stream on Thursday. Whiskey possesses qualities that are deeply therapeutic in the midst of an olfactory issue, so long as you can still taste. If you lose your sense of taste, then you're kind of screwed. I did lose mine once, had the flu like 4 years ago. Whiskey didn't taste good then. That was one of the worst weeks of my life. Okay, Willett, shall we talk about Willett? A few months ago, like 6 months ago actually, I went through Kentucky, decent part of Kentucky, with my dad and my brother, and we were golfing, hitting up tours, and I dropped a couple videos about those tours, about two of them, about Old Forester and about the Evan Williams Bourbon experience. I'm going to hit those in the show notes below so you can check out those. This one is all about Willett, which is not spelled with a WH, but neither is whiskey. If you're going to go on the Bourbon Trail, the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, I highly recommend you do stop at Willett. Willett is not the most impressive place you'll see. I mean, the facilities at Heaven Hill, their new whole tourist experience is massive, very large. And then Buffalo Trace down by the river in Frankfort, very lovely. Willett is understated, but it does sit at the highest point in Nelson County there in Bardstown. And it's a looker. It's lovely. It's quaint. You drive. I wish I took pictures of this, but I lost them. I have no idea where they are. And I will take more pictures. And I may edit this video in the future and add pictures. But you basically pull off on a dirt road and drive up a hill. You could drive right past this place, not know it's there. Drive up the hill, and then boom, you're driving through some very small rick houses relative to the ones just down the road, which you can see from Willett Distillery at Heaven Hill. The Heaven Hill one's very big. Willett one's not so big. But the campus there at Willett is just delightful. There's a pond in the middle of it with a fountain. The visitor center is like a quaint colonial house. And then the distillery itself looks like, you could build it with your own two hands. It's probably the most residential looking distillery that I've been to on the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. The vibes are just on point. You feel like you could just call it home. Apparently they were building a little Airbnb there. I don't know if that's actually true or if it ever opened, but it'd be a place that I would spend the night. If you're going for a tour there, you start in their visitor center, which is very, very small. If it's a big tour, there's not a lot of room to meander, which is a little bit tough in COVID times, but their swag is on point. Willett has some dope swag, and unfortunately, if I would have thought about it, if I was talking about Willett, I would have gotten my Willett hat. Now I'm wearing my Evan Williams hat. Should have worn my Willett hat. Shame on me. But they have dope swag like Ebbets Field Willett hats and really rad wool sweaters. Stuff you can't get at some of the other distilleries. It's not tchotchke, pedestrian swag. It's dope swag. I dare say it's dank. So you can peruse that stuff while you're waiting. You can also grab a killer coffee, and I do have a picture here of their pretty killer espresso bar. my boy Brian Bikey at Abandoned Bourbon. He works for Quill's Coffee and helps with the coffee program, helps make sure the folks at Willett are running their coffee program on point, which they do. I've enjoyed the coffee I've had there at Willett. It's like the only place in Bardstown that I'm aware of that you can get good coffee. There's a business opportunity there, I think. Being someone who works in coffee myself, I'm tempted to leave my job and go open a cafe in Bardstown. I may do that. I might start tomorrow. But you can always stop by the bar at Willett and get a decent shot of espresso or a nitro cold brew. I've had both and enjoyed both. Then you go on your tour. And the last tour I was on at Willett was actually improved over the tours I had been on before. Right before you head out the door, they gather you together, and the first thing they do is put some whiskey in your hand. And I love that. I love it so much. Like, that's what every tour should do. You shouldn't have to wait till the end of the tour to taste whiskey. You should have it with you always. It just, further ingrains their product in your experience. And if you're on the Bourbon Trail, you're having a rad experience. So you're going to, I think, elevate that whiskey in your mind if you're drinking it while you're touring a distillery. So props to them, Willett, for getting you whiskey in your hand when you start the tour. Then the first thing you do is walk into a big, basically empty, useless room inside the distillery. So you walk out of the gift shop and you walk all of 100 yards to the front door of the distillery, which I have a picture of this as well. Lovely front door. I mean, it's like a 9 out of 10 when it comes to front doors, for sure. But this long room that you walk into is when they first tell you about the Colesveen family and the history of Willett, which is interesting. The information is interesting. I enjoy that part, but I do not enjoy this room. There is something happening in that room. I don't know if that's because that's where the distillery cats hang out, but it smells like butt. It smelled like butt last July, and it smelled like butt 3 years ago when I was there before. And it just baffles me. You'd think they'd be able to solve that. It's not a thing that you really want to smell. It doesn't smell like, distillery operations. I've been in a lot of distilleries and never smelled something so butt heavy as I have now twice in that room. But that's the low point. I mean, they're giving you good information and they're giving you more whiskey too. So good on them for that. Then they just give you the usual business. You walk through the distillery. They talk about the mash bill, which is a thing that people talk about. They mention the limestone water again. You see their pot still, which they make a big deal about. A lot of people have pot stills functioning as a doubler, whatever. It's cool. It's lovely. It's a lovely Vendome pot still that kind of sits in the middle of this big room. You used to be able to go up to the mash tanks and dip your finger in the mash and taste it. And that was a delightful aspect to the tour experience. Due to COVID, apparently COVID can live in mash. I don't think it can, but they shut down that aspect of the tour, which makes about as much sense as putting those little pool noodles in the cups at golf courses, because somehow you were going to transmit COVID getting your balls out of a hole. That's pushing it. But you can't dip your finger in the mash anymore. Hopefully one day they bring that back. What is nice about the Willett tour is that you see the still. You see the still operating, hopefully, if you're there at the right time. You can see the mash tanks. You smell the mash. You're there. You can see the filling station. They take you over to where they fill the barrels after the distillate is done. And then they take you over to the rick house. So you get the full business. They dress you down. And they take you really from grain to cask. And then they take you back into the visitor center. And by the time it's all said and done, they've actually let you taste probably 80% of their whiskey. I mean, they've got the whole lineup of their standard releases. The Old Bardstown, the Pure Kentucky, the Noah's Mill, the Rowan's Creek, the Willett 4-year rye, the Pot Still Reserve. They've got all that out for you to taste, and you can kind of choose from different bottles as you go. So by the end of it, you probably tasted 4 different whiskeys. Because I was with my brother and my dad, we all chose different ones, so we tasted their entire line on that tour. It was sick. It's a really, really enjoyable tour, and the guides that we've had there have done a really good job. They seem to care a lot. It seems like the Colesveen squad has really invested in their staff, because it seems like they care about what they do, and they know what's going on generally with the family and with the distillery. It's not corporate. It's really anything but corporate, and I appreciated that a great deal. So the tour, I like this tour better than the Old Forester tour because it's more authentic to me, kind of grassroots. So to me, this is the tour you should go on in Bardstown. I mentioned if you're going to be in Louisville, then you should probably do the Old Forester tour. But I think this is kind of the tour in Bardstown. And unfortunately, I've not been on the tours at Buffalo Trace. We need to remedy that. That has to change. So I can't say that this is the best tour in all of Kentucky, but it's probably the best tour that I've been on. Bonus points now is after the tour, there's the bar at Willett upstairs, up above the visitor center of the distillery. And this is just a place you need to spend some time. You have to. If you want to get in and taste some really exclusive Willett Family Estate bourbons, the single barrels, or some of their old releases, like the vintage, the literal vintage releases, you can do that there. They've got a pretty killer bar set up with all these single barrels. It looks like this. So if you just want to get in and have some killer pours, this is the place to do it. Will it set you back some Washingtons, some Jeffersons, some Hamiltons, and possibly some Franklins? Yeah, it very well could do that. It probably will do that. But it's kind of dope to taste it there. And they've done a really good job, aesthetically speaking, with the bar setup. Also, as long as you're there drinking, you should probably be eating, because they've done a wonderful job with the food. Like, 10 out of 10 would recommend, kind of wonderful. It's not a place where you go and you order a steak. Like, it's not heavy food. It's tapas, really. It's bar food. It's victuals, but it's elevated. I mean, it's good. As I've been talking, I've been flashing you pictures of the food. There was this radishy, fishy, I think it was a trout, maybe, dip. That was great. The porky thing with the fried whatever, that was great. And then there was some kind of sandwich. I forget what was on that. But really, the pièce de résistance in terms of crushable lunches is the egg salad sandwich at Willett. There is no egg salad sandwich like the egg salad sandwich at Willett. It's the egg salad sandwich that has its own Instagram account, started and run by my friend Brian Bikey out of and Bourbon. I am okay on egg salad. Like, it's fine. But when I went to the bar at Willett with Brian, he's like, you have to have this sandwich. And I was like, okay, fine. You know, take your word for it. The guy knows what he's talking about when it comes to flavors. And yes, it is life-changing. Like, there are a few things that every time I go back to Kentucky I want to have. One of them is an old-fashioned, a barrel-aged old-fashioned from Bardstown Bourbon Company. The other one is an egg salad sandwich at the bar at Willett. So, I'm supposed to go to Kentucky next week. I don't currently have plans to go to Bardstown, but I might just have to get an egg salad sandwich. So if you've gone there, spent some time in the gift shop, had a coffee, gone on the tour, picked up a bottle or two, and then had a very nice late afternoon mid-meal, you could make it dinner. Like, we got enough stuff where we called it dinner because we literally ordered everything on the menu. You're going to have had a good day. You have to go there. I mean, if you're going to Bardstown and you're not going to Willett, and you're not eating at the bar at Willett, you're just doing it wrong. Like, they're doing it right, you're doing it wrong. So let it be written. So let it be done. Alright, squad, sorry I didn't have more pictures than that, but you can just Google Willett, and there's some pretty cool pictures on the Google. Thankfully, we have that infinite information machine always available to us. Hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Don't forget to tune back in on Wednesday when I do a little review of this particular product from Willett Distillery. Till then, stay healthy, stay safe. Please stay healthy, because it's tough out there. Keep it neat.